With weather like today's and severe weather season just around the corner, the Detroit City Council is asking its largest utility provider to keep the lights and the heat on. They voted unanimously to urge DTE to stop shutoffs to customers. Let's bring in Grant Herbs on this. Grant, this comes after a new report showing DTE had a record number of shutoffs last year.
Yeah, Jason, the most they've had since 2016 and double what they had last year. All of this comes as people are still recovering from the pandemic, struggling to make ends meet, especially as prices on almost everything continue to rise.
The Detroit City Council asking DTE to stop all electricity shutoffs for at least a year. The resolution urging the state's largest utility provider to put back in place a voluntary moratorium it had at the beginning of the pandemic. The unanimous vote from city officials comes after reporting for ProPublica and Outlier Media, detailing DTE's short-lived pause in shutoffs for the first 3 months of the pandemic before restarting them and hitting record levels in 2021. According to the reporting, DTE shutting off power to thousands of customers for non-payment more than 178,000 times, doubling the number from 2020. At the start of the pandemic, state lawmakers opted not to force utility companies to keep the lights and heat on as people lost their jobs and fell behind on bills while COVID tore through communities. And there's no law or agency that can force utility companies to provide affordable power, only reliable power, which is where DTE has spent tens of millions of dollars in recent years, as customers have faced nearly unprecedented rate hikes. But much of that has only gone so far, DTE citing an increase in tree trimming and upgrades to substations and power lines to make their grid stronger. But during storms last summer, hundreds of thousands were still without power, many of them on DTE's watch. So far, it's unclear whether the utility provider will do what the council is asking.
Now, in a response today, DTE did send us a statement touting the $119 million in assistance that they doled out last year, but ultimately saying in this statement, in part, moratoriums are not always in the best interest of residents because they only allow debt to grow as energy use continues. It is important to connect customers to the funds and assistance available, which DTE redoubled efforts to achieve when the pandemic began. And Jason, we'll have that full statement from DTE up on clickondetroit.com. Back to you.
It'll be interesting to see if they go through with this. Grant, are you able to put an exact number on how many people would be able to benefit from this?
That's hard to pin down, mostly because customers who experience these shutoffs end up in cycles of shutoffs and reconnections, so it's hard to figure out just how many people we're talking about. But one of the advocates I talked to today said that they get 500 calls from people every single day asking for help to pay their bills. So it's quite a few people.
Yeah, absolutely. Grant, thanks.